The courtroom was silent. Marble walls, high arches, the gaze of 9 justices, all fixed on the lone woman standing at the center of it all. Roxanne Tickle adjusted the sleeves of her navy suit. Her hands trembled, just slightly. Not from fear, from purpose. She wasn't supposed to be here. Not someone like her. Not a trans woman from a small Indiana town. Not someone who had lost nearly everything for daring to be seen. Her job, her safety, her privacy. And yet, here she stood, at the highest court in the United States, daring to make them look. Justice Amy Coney Barrett leaned forward. Her voice was measured, surgical. Ms. Tickle, you're asking this court to expand a legal definition that has stood for generations, to declare that gender identity is protected under federal law, just as biological sex is. Why should we reinterpret the word woman to include you? Roxanne didn't flinch. Justice Barrett, she said quietly, I'm not asking you to reinterpret anything. I'm asking you to catch up. The room shifted. Some leaned in. Others recoiled. Outside, protesters clashed under competing flags. Rainbow stripes and red crosses, cardboard signs reading, "There are only 2 genders," beside others proclaiming, "Protect trans lives." But inside, everything hinged on Roxanne. 2 years ago, she'd worked in cybersecurity at Davenport Tech, one of their top contractors, trusted with sensitive government networks. She was discreet, efficient, respected, until she updated her name and gender marker, until she told the truth. Within 2 weeks, she was dismissed. No formal reason, just a misalignment with company culture. She filed a discrimination complaint. It was denied. She sued. Her case wound its way through the courts until one question brought it here. Does Title VII of the Civil Rights Act protect transgender people from workplace discrimination? A simple question, with a soul at stake. When Roxanne stepped to the podium, she wasn't just speaking for herself. She was speaking for every trans person who'd been erased in the fine print. I'm not a theory, she told the justices. I'm not a metaphor. I am a woman, and I was fired for saying so. Justice Alito leaned in. If we accept gender identity as a legal category, he asked, where do we draw the line? Can anyone claim womanhood at will, regardless of biology? Roxanne answered evenly. If a line must be drawn, then let it be at truth, at the courage it takes to live authentically in the face of rejection. Not at chromosomes, not at someone else's discomfort. She paused. It's not a whim to become yourself. It's a war. I didn't wake up one day and choose to be discriminated against. I chose to be honest, and I paid the price. Barrett's tone sharpened. You've benefited from laws and public resources designed around binary definitions. Don't you owe something to those structures? Roxanne tilted her head. Justice Barrett, I've obeyed the law, but the law has not always returned the favor. What I owe is honesty. What I ask is recognition, not special treatment, equal footing. The chamber held its breath. Justice Kagan broke the silence. Ms. Tickle, if we side with you, it could redefine how every federal law handles sex and gender. Are you prepared for that scale of impact? Roxanne looked down. For a moment, she seemed to gather something ancient from inside her. I've lost jobs, friends, family. I've been called a fraud, a predator, a threat. So yes, I am prepared, because someone has to be. Flash. A photographer caught it, her profile lit by the sunlight cutting through the stained glass. Across the country, millions watched the live stream. Teens in rural towns clutched their phones in secret. Mothers wept. Trolls tweeted. When the opposing counsel spoke, they leaned into fear. This, they said, would open floodgates, make every space, every sport, every standard, subjective. But when Roxanne's lawyer stood to rebut, she said one thing. Being seen is not a flood, it's a mirror. You're just now being asked to look. The hearing ended. The court recessed. And then they waited. 1 month later, the decision dropped, 7-2, in favor of Roxanne Tickle. The majority opinion was written by none other than Justice Barrett. When laws fail to acknowledge lived reality, she wrote, they become artifacts, not protections. In this case, the reality is simple. Gender identity is intrinsic to personhood, and the law must see the person. A single sentence from the opinion echoed through every headline, every push notification. The Constitution does not deny rights because society is slow to see them. On the steps of the court, Roxanne emerged to cameras and microphones. She wore the same suit, the same quiet resolve. "I didn't win this alone," she said. "I won because the law finally saw someone like me. That shouldn't be historic. That should be normal." That night, her story aired on every major network. TikTok flooded with duets of her testimony. Legal scholars dissected her poise. But it wasn't just legal minds who paid attention. It was the 14-year-old in Mississippi who finally asked to be called by her real name. The father in Kansas who told his daughter, "I think I understand now." The woman in Ohio who posted, "For the first time, I feel real." The image that went viral? Two faces side by side. Roxanne, face raised to the sky, defiant. Barrett, holding the majority opinion, expression unreadable. Beneath them, in bold yellow, "Let's finish it." Some thought it was a warning, but most understood it as a vow. A vow to complete what dignity demands. A vow to not settle for tolerance, but to insist on recognition. A vow that civil rights aren't finished just because a law is passed. They're finished when everyone protected by that law can walk into a room like that courtroom and know they belong. And so the story that began as a legal challenge became something greater. A turning point. A moment where a nation didn't just debate identity, it faced it. And this time, finally, it didn't look away.